Welcome to the Shade Chronicles, an anthology-style podcast featuring short works of fiction and serial prose, specifically with a sci-fi and horror flavor. Your hosts for the podcast are Derek Leftridge and Lawrence Trokey.
Hi, this is Derek Leftridge, and I would like to welcome you to the Shade Chronicles.
Hi, this is Lawrence Trokey, and I also want to welcome you and thank you for spending your time with us.
Killer Ad by Derek Leftridge. From the case file of Carson Link by Detective T.P. Klein of the Manford County Police Department from interviews and research analysis. Carson Link went missing early in the morning of October 10, 2010, while traveling down Highway 5. This is explained by the cell phone record pings and cross-configuration of towers from the northeast section 5.61.01 of Manford County. The last known transaction was made approximately as 3:40 a.m., from the transcript of a voice-to-text message sent to his brother. The text transcript details information about visiting their mother with options of dates to make the 90-minute trip to the retirement community their mother lives at currently. Since no other pertinent details or activity is in the code, this is considered the last text he may have sent of his life. There are other miscellaneous codes and data that are part of the text transcript, but at this time it has been deemed to be interference from towers as odd anomalies get recorded in addition to other data in certain areas. Paralegal Manny Cole of the Tyne, Mack & Foster law firm went to college originally to be an audio engineer, but after 1 year decided to change his major to law to please his mother. He worked hard and did well, then graduated with his law degree, but stayed with his love of audio tech in his spare time. When the case of missing Carson Link came to TM&F, Manny was given a chance to work with lead attorney Anthony Tyne to help with researching the case. Working with detectives, Manny was able to get access to Carson's cell phone records, along with crucial files and evidence about the situation up to this point. Even though there was extensive work done on the detective's part, there was, in his opinion, minimal information regarding the cell phone's technology. Within the files was the basic information about the ping on cell towers, and text message transcripts were available, but there were other cell tech coding that did not seem to be investigated and considered not important and interference. Maybe this was not important, or just avoided by the detectives because the main info was easy to see. However, Manny was intrigued and got to work into looking deeper into the data. Possibly a clue or maybe more information could be determined, Manny thought, if he can take a deeper dive into the mobile forensic audio research. After looking at the cell phone data going back and forth from the two closest towers, there was a lot of navigation and ISP protocol location data as expected, but something else was buried and snaking through the mobile language. If it was in one area, it would have been a lot easier and faster to find, but that was not always how it is in computer speak. However, the specific information was during a certain time of the day that was detected by the specific time when the towers were activated with cell phone connection and data. The time was between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. This had been known by many who investigated from day one because that was when the voice text was made from Carson to his brother. However, the records show a lot of activity at the end of the text message for about 15 seconds. This could be signal handling off the signal from one tower to another, since Carson was driving at the time of leaving the message. Oddly though, the 15 seconds of data not only have code but actual words randomly intertwined within the data. The words were come, on, couch, and town. And Manny thought to himself, could this be something that was picked up within Carson's car? But what does it mean? Looking up different combinations of the word, he gets a listing for a furniture store owned by Mickey Arthur off of Highway 5 in Manford County named Couchtown. Further detail about Couchtown is that it is a small furniture store business. In addition to details about the store and a listing that details how the owner, Mickey Arthur, decided to make a radio commercial to advertise this business that would run twice a week, and he was very proud of the opportunity and shared the information with anyone who would listen or was in earshot. Then there was a link to the radio commercial with transcript of these words. Come on down to Couchtown. We have all the sofa sectionals, love seats, chases, and sleepers at the best price. Come on down. Come on down. Come on down to Couchtown. Located in the 210 Plaza off Highway 5. Come on down to Couchtown. Get here now. The next day, Manny takes a trip to the Couchtown location, driving down the 2-lane Highway 5, with trees bordering the road for most of the drive. The trees begin to minimize as he gets closer to the 210 Plaza area and then takes the 210 exit that leads him into the strip mall parking lot. 210 Plaza has a handful of stores, but Couchtown is by far the smallest in the strip. However, as Manny enters the business, the owner, Mickey, makes up for the size of the store with his huge personality as he immediately walks up to Manny asking if he can help him settle into his new Chase Lounge. Manny shakes Mickey's hand and quickly explains why he's there and about the words he found on the data that causes Mickey to laugh. A little too hard, but a laugh anyway. He explains it is from the radio commercial and that it is his voice. He explains how they are not one of those big box furniture stores, but wanted to advertise and could only afford an off-hour time slot, so the commercial plays twice a week in the window of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Even though the advertisements do help, it would be better if it had a larger area zone that could receive the signal at the time of evening. Also, the 3 to 4 a.m. slot is not only cheap because it is not a prime drive time, but also because there is a maintenance done at the same time the signal range goes down very low. The signal is about a 10-mile radius at the time other than the normal 50-mile, so it is only heard by those closer to the radio tower at that time of the morning. Manny lets Mickey know about his legal investigation into the disappearance of Connor and how the store radio commercial was part of the cell voice text. Mickey looks up to the heavens and says, "Oh yes, I remember that situation and that the police came to the store and asked if any of us knew anything. Not sure how we would, since at the time of the morning we were all definitely in bed. However, my warehouse manager told the police that he saw a car on the way in that day. He said he saw it off to the side of the road, almost in the ditch, since there's no shoulder on Highway 5. I believe it was the car Mr. Connor was driving when he went missing, and the police seized it and took it away, but you probably already know that from the case files." Mickey ended the conversation by stating that in the 5-mile radius of the tower, there are only cows, some horses, and 3 or 4 farms, of which only one was really active, so only someone driving on the road at the time would even heard the ad. The farm and wood shop owned by Mr. Russell Moore is the only active place in the small radius. After leaving Couchtown and checking the list of those interviewed, Russell Moore's name is listed as one of those interviewed because of his proximity to the area, pinpointed from the cell data where Carson's car was last seen. There was a possibility he may have seen or heard something, but from the information in the files, he did not hear or see or know anything. However, noted in the files by the detective, there was a note from the interview suggesting a revisiting and possible check of his property since he is in such a remote location off Highway 5, and Russell seemed to be very off-putting and short. No additional interview or visit to the property was recorded in the case files, so Manny was wondering if the second interview and inspection of the area had actually been done. Manny's contact with the police was Detective Wilson, who he contacted to discuss if a visit to Russell Moore was conducted more than once and if the property was checked out. With a grumpy sigh, Wilson said that information should be in the case files. Manny mentioned it was not, so with another sigh, Wilson announced he was going to go to the location, check things out, and get back to Manny in about an hour. It had been a little over a half an hour since his talk with Detective Wilson, and Manny was feeling edgy and impatient, so he decided to head out to Russell's property off Highway 5, since the detective was probably already there. He notices that he missed a text from Wilson about 20 minutes after their phone call that says, "Get over here, I found something you need to see." Even though Russell was not assumed a good suspect from all the information in the files, many felt there were too many convenient coincidences involving Russell and his property. Once at the property, Manny looks around and sees Detective Wilson's car parked on the side of the house. Getting out of his car, Manny makes his way up the front steps to the front door that's partially open. He pauses for a moment, then pushes the door all the way open and walks in and says, "Hello? This is Manny Cole. Hello?" There's no answer, and the living room is dark and musty smelling. With the late afternoon sun lowering in the sky, large shadows are casting all over the room. Making his way through the living room, Manny looks right and left for a sign of life. However, he sees a partly open door at the far end of the kitchen that looks like it leads to the basement. An overwhelming feeling of anxiety hits Manny as he reaches for the basement door to open it all the way and steps down the first step. He again calls out to Detective Wilson, and still no response. Manny slowly begins to descend the steps. As the steps creak under his feet, Manny can hear some rustling, a thumping, and a faint radio playing in the distance of the basement. At the last step before the basement floor, he begins to look right, then left. With a bit more light coming in from the small basement window, he can see more than in the living room above. To his right is a washer and dryer and a storage room with a chain link fence around it. To his left, about 10 feet, is a room with a bright light coming from underneath the bottom of the door, and this is where the sounds seem to be coming from. For a third and final time, Manny calls out to the detective, and he makes his way across the basement floor to the room with the light. He pushes the door open slowly and feels chills and dread as he recognizes from the case file pictures Russell, who is sitting in a rocking chair in the small room, his head hitting the wall behind him. That was the thumping. Russell is facing up to the ceiling with his eyes closed. His hands are on his legs. There's a gun on his lap which appears to be blood smeared along with his shirt. A body is lying face up on the floor at Russell's feet and to his left and appears to be dead. In a shocked state, Manny can barely speak but asks, "Russell Moore?" Russell stops rocking and puts his hand on the gun. He then looks slowly at Manny, grabs the gun with his right hand, and begins to aim it at Manny. Suddenly there is a loud crack as the gun is fired and Manny falls to the ground. He takes a quick inventory and realizes he was pushed and not shot. Then another crack sound is heard from above. Quickly looking up, Manny realizes Detective Wilson was the person who pushed him to the ground and out of the way of the shot. Russell slumps in his chair and his gun falls to the floor. Detective Wilson is standing in the doorway, aiming his gun as police sirens can be heard in the distance. Getting helped up by Wilson, Manny hears others running into the room and feels a breeze as other detectives run past him quickly and towards Russell. As Manny gets his bearings, he sees the other detectives grabbing and restraining Russell, and Detective Wilson asks, "Are you okay?" Manny shakes his head yes. Russell's on the floor face down now with his handcuffs on and blood on his right side. Quickly, 3 detectives pick up Russell and assist him towards the stairs to go up into the living room area. Manny slumps against the wall as Wilson walks to the chair Russell was sitting in. Detective Wilson, reaching up and pushing on a spot above the wall and the rocking chair, says, "Well, we got that sicko, and good thing because this was not his first abduction." Manny responds with, "How do you know, Detective?" A click is heard as what looks like a wall with a map on it opens and reveals another hidden room. Wilson walks in the room and Manny follows and sees a grimy mattress covered with a stained sheet on the floor, multiple chains and collars attached to one wall, and what could only be blood stains on the walls and floor, along with various clothes, shoes, and other pieces of material. Detective Wilson explains, "When I got here, I did not see anyone in the house, so I walked around the property. Hidden in some brush and in some cases partly buried were different cars with blood smeared on the outside, and that is when I texted you. I went back to the house and to the basement and was ambushed by Russell. We had a bit of a scuffle and I grabbed what I could and stabbed him in the side. He pushed me off and ran into this room. I heard someone moving upstairs and hid by the chain link cage. After I saw it was you, I made my way to the room. This was a secret torture room where he took everyone he abducted. Unfortunately, we could not help Mr. Link or any of the others, and what the hell they had to go through, but it has ended." Manny asks, "So he was just a serial killer that had been abducting and killing for years and no one got suspicious?" Wilson responds, "Well, I guess so. This isn't like the movies where there's a secret story or reason. Some people just keep under the radar and have fucked up ways of getting their jollies." Exhausted and saddened, Manny makes his way up the stairs to the main floor, and once at the top he sees Russell being secured to a gurney with handcuffs and straps and being taken out of the home to a waiting ambulance. Taking a breath and pulling a cell phone from his pocket to communicate what happened to his boss, Manny glances around the living room. Under the stacks of newspapers, books, and just regular filth, he noticed that the furniture in this room was from the Couchtown store. He remembers seeing this type of furniture at the store while in the warehouse and from the sales flyers. Apparently, Russell was a Couchtown frequent customer, and in between purchases, he brutally killed innocent people. Maybe that silly commercial was a motivator for not only furnishing but murder. Thinking to himself and quietly chuckling again, Manny hears in the distance, coming from the basement, a radio that announces, "Come on down to Couchtown."